At 82, Otis Williams is finally ready to expose the truth he's kept hidden for decades. Secrets that could completely reshape everything we thought we knew about the Temptations. Behind the harmonies were fierce battles, beneath the smiles were deep rivalries, and within the dazzling spotlight were moments of heartbreak. Don't miss the chance to hear the one revelation that changes it all. The birth of a legend. Detroit, where the air vibrated with ambition and rhythm, was worlds apart from young Otis Miles Jr.'s quiet childhood in Texarkana. But Detroit wasn't just a city. It was the birthplace of dreams, a stage where every corner, alley, and street echoed with the promise of stardom. In the heart of the Great Migration, talent poured in like an unstoppable wave, each soul hoping for a shot at greatness. Otis wasn't any different, except that he was willing to chase it with everything he had. It wasn't long before a fateful encounter would alter his life forever, and soon, the world would know his name. Otis quickly learned that music was more than just a passion, it was his ticket to the future. Surrounded by smoky clubs and crowded streets, he connected with others who shared his dream, young men with voices powerful enough to move mountains, and ambitions that burned as fiercely as his own. Soon, a brotherhood was born: David, Eddie, Paul, and Melvin. They weren't just a group, they were bound by a harmony so electric, it sent chills through anyone who heard it. Together, as the Temptations, they became the soundtrack to a generation, their chart-topping hits and velvet-smooth voices making history with every performance. But behind the glitz and the glamour, the road to stardom was far from smooth. It was paved with sleepless nights, fiery disagreements, and rivalries that nearly shattered everything they had built. Otis found himself at the center of it all, especially when it came to the undeniable force of David Ruffin. David was a powerhouse, no question, but his fiery spirit sometimes burned too hot to control. The tension between them was like walking on a razor's edge, ready to snap at any moment. And then there were the unforgettable nights that reminded him of the work still left to be done. In Columbia, South Carolina, they stepped onto a stage in front of a crowd divided down the middle, black on one side, white on the other, a rope separating them. Sang, their voices rising over the divide, proving that music could break down barriers no rope could ever contain. Now, decades later, Otis stands as the last of the originals, reflecting on a life steeped in music, memories, and secrets that have remained hidden for far too long. The road from a hopeful kid in Detroit to a Motown legend was anything but easy, but it was a journey that would define him. Every fight, every soaring high note, and every moment of doubt all led to something far greater than he could have ever dreamed. Before the Temptations ruled the airwaves, Otis was just another teenager, trying to carve out a space for himself in Detroit's vibrant music scene. He had the passion, the drive, and a name that would carry him to the stage. Otis Williams, a name taken from his mother's side, felt right for his ambitions. Little did he know, destiny was already at work, placing him in the right places, at the right time, with the right people. Detroit wasn't just a city, it was a web of connections. Otis quickly found himself rubbing shoulders with industry greats. Barrett Strong and Eddie Holland were already turning heads, proving that dreams could be made real with enough soul and hustle. Watching him only pushed Otis to work harder. Soon, Otis formed his own group, Otis Williams in the Distance. They weren't just performing for fun, they had something real, a sound, a following, and a fierce desire for something bigger. Their first taste of success came in the form of a local hit, the kind of song that made people stop and listen. But the real turning point came on an ordinary night at St. Stephen's Community Center. They were just one of many acts that night, but when they hit the stage, something clicked. The crowd felt it, and more importantly, one man in the crowd felt it: Berry Gordy. The legendary founder of Motown, already making waves in the music world, watched with keen interest. After the show, he did something that would change Otis' life forever. He slipped Otis his business card, with a simple message: "Call me if you're looking for something bigger." Bigger was exactly what Otis was looking for. It wasn't long before he and his crew stood at the gates of Motown, ready to enter the world that would shape them forever. Motown wasn't just a record label, it was a revolution. Inside those walls, legends were born. Otis and his crew were about to become a part of that legacy. And they weren't alone. Surrounded by the likes of Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, and the Supremes, they stepped into a world filled with greatness. All under the watchful eye of Berry Gordy, a man who could transform raw talent into timeless gold. With a few shifts in the lineup, the Temptations were born. Sound, unmistakable. Their moves, sharp, smooth, and perfected. They were poised to take over. But even as their records soared to the top of the charts and their performances packed arenas, the road wasn't always smooth. Detroit's musical revolution was just beginning, and in those gritty streets, Otis Miles Jr. dove deep into a scene that would change the world. Coming from the quiet life of Texarkana, Detroit's energy was electric and overwhelming. The city was alive with possibilities, a melting pot of talent during the Great Migration, pulling dreamers from every corner. Just when Otis was about to take his shot, a mysterious note slipped under his door would change everything. The young Otis, with his gospel roots and heart full of ambition, quickly realized that music could be more than just a passion, it could be his way forward. Bustling clubs and lively streets of Detroit, he met others just like him, dreamers with stories, voices yearning to be heard. It was here, amid the rhythm of the city, that his journey truly began. Wasn't long before Otis's path crossed with David, Eddie, Paul, and Melvin. Together, they formed a bond that went beyond music. They shared experiences, hopes, and a vision for something greater. As the Temptations, they became the very definition of the Motown sound, their harmonies and rhythms immortalized in the hearts of fans and the history of a generation. But even as they rose to superstardom, the dynamics within the group weren't without their challenges. Otis often found himself at odds with David Ruffin, whose extraordinary talent was often overshadowed by a fiery, unpredictable personality. Yet, despite the personal conflicts, their music continued to soar, breaking through barriers and resonating with audiences far and wide. In Columbia, South Carolina, was a stark reminder of the divisions they were up against. Performing on a stage divided by a rope, black on one side, white on the other, spoke volumes about the racial struggles of the time. But the Temptations stood united, their voices blending in a defiant harmony that rejected the separation the world tried to impose on them. As the last remaining founding member, Otis looks back on it all, a journey marked by both triumph and tension. The struggles and the victories, the melodies and the moments of discord, all of it wove together into the rich tapestry of his life. From the quiet streets of Texarkana to the heights of Motown fame, Otis's story is one of resilience, the power of music, and the unbreakable bond shared by those who sing together. As a teenager, Otis was already beginning to form his own groups, adopting his mother's maiden name, Williams, as his stage name. This decision came at a pivotal moment when his family moved to the west side of Detroit, placing him at the heart of the city's vibrant music scene. The timing couldn't have been better. It brought him closer to rising stars like Barrett Strong and Eddie Holland, fueling his ambition to succeed in the music industry. Soon, he formed his own group, Otis Williams in the Distance, and quickly gained local attention and even produced a regional hit. It was during this time that he had a life-changing encounter with Berry Gordy, who was on the verge of creating Motown Records. In the dynamic, high-energy world of Detroit, Otis felt he was destined to leave an indelible mark on the music world. He blended the soulful harmonies of his gospel background with the infectious rhythms of Motown. This marked the beginning of a career that would be defined by both unprecedented success and internal challenges. It all came to a head at a community event held at St. Stephen's Community Center, where his group delivered a performance that captivated the audience. Their set was just one part of the evening, but it coincided with a performance by the Miracles, who were riding the wave of their first big hit. As their set ended, Berry Gordy, already a key figure in the industry, watched from the sideline. Impressed by what he saw, he approached Otis in a serendipitous moment by the restroom. He handed over his business card with a simple suggestion: "Call me if you ever want something bigger." This chance encounter would go on to prove one of the most pivotal moments in Otis Williams' career. The band was on the verge of a major change, and an opportunity was knocking, one that would shape their future in ways they never imagined. Behind the Motown magic lay unseen struggles, challenges that even its brightest stars had to face. By the early 1960s, the Distance had gained some local recognition, but they were struggling to break into the mainstream. Their frustrations with management reached a breaking point when a hit song was sold without their consent, leaving them disillusioned and ready for something new. At their lowest moment, Berry Gordy, the visionary founder of Motown Records, made an offer they couldn't refuse. The group decided to contact him, and soon after, they were invited to meet Mickey Stevens, the head of R&R at Motown. Realizing this could be their chance for a fresh start, Otis and his bandmates, Elbridge, Al Bryant, and Richard Street, made the bold decision to leave the Distance and explore new possibilities. At the same time, Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams were also searching for a new direction after the Primes disbanded. Fate brought them together, and they initially formed a new group called the Eldridges. But when they discovered the name was already taken, they rebranded themselves as the Temptations. This partnership would not only change their careers, but also give birth to a new fusion of soul, pop, and R&B, a sound that captured hearts around the globe. The unmistakable blend of Eddie Kendricks' high falsetto and the deep baritone of the others gave birth to a sound that was instantly recognizable. Their high-energy performances, both in the studio and on stage, drew the attention of Motown's top producers, including the legendary Smokey Robinson. In the early years, Robinson played a key role in crafting their signature sound. His work resulted in timeless hits like The Way You Do the Things You Do, My Girl, and It's Growing. These songs, with their catchy melodies and seamless harmonies, cemented the Temptations' place at the pinnacle of Motown success. But the road to stardom was far from easy. The group went through constant lineup changes and struggled to keep up with the mounting demands of their growing popularity. The addition of David Ruffin in 1963 brought a renewed vigor and a powerful voice to their sound, marking a major turning point in their music. However, the journey didn't stop there. As the Temptations continued to evolve, new faces came aboard, including Dennis Edwards, who stepped in to replace Paul Williams. Presence helped guide them through a rapidly changing music scene. Producer Norman Whitfield pushed them into more experimental territory, with tracks like Cloud 9 and Ball of Confusion, which introduced a socially conscious, more experimental side to their sound. This period of transformation wasn't without its challenges. It ultimately kept the group at the forefront of the music industry, even as other bands struggled to stay relevant. But the constant need to reinvent themselves took its toll. In 1971, Eddie Kendricks left to pursue a solo career, and Paul Williams, grappling with serious health issues, also had to step away. Williams' ongoing battle with alcoholism led to his tragic death in 1973. His passing, ruled as a suicide, deeply affected Otis, as he had been not only a bandmate but also a close friend. These painful events threw the group into a period of instability, as they dealt with the loss of loved ones and adjusted to frequent member changes while exploring new musical styles. But even with newfound success, the challenges for the Temptations were far from over. The second half of the 1970s proved to be a difficult time for the group, with declining public interest and growing internal conflicts. But through it all, Otis remained the steady force, the one constant guiding the group through these turbulent times. Searched relentlessly for ways to refresh their sound and regain their place at the top. The group's attempt to embrace the Philly soul sound, a shift that felt like a natural progression, turned out to be a difficult transition. During this period of change, the Temptations faced the tough reality of trying to maintain their unique identity while also staying relevant in a music world that was constantly evolving. Their familiar style, once so groundbreaking, now had to compete with fresh trends. Even in the face of such challenges, Otis didn't give up. Determined to keep the Temptations alive, he pushed forward with resilience, proving that their journey was far from over. Back in their hometown of Detroit, the group fought to stay true to the sound that had made them legends, while adapting to an ever-changing industry. Just when it seemed like the Temptations might fade from the spotlight, the 1980s brought a surprising comeback. Rick James, a musical force in his own right, saw that the Temptations still had the magic and worked with them on songs like Standing on the Top. This collaboration introduced the group to a whole new generation of fans, reminding the world why they had been so influential in the first place. Then came the iconic Motown 25th Anniversary Special, featuring Michael Jackson's unforgettable moonwalk and a thrilling face-off between the Temptations and the Four Tops. It breathed new life into the group's legacy. Like Treat Her Like a Lady and Stay climbed the charts, proving that the Temptations could still evolve and make hits that resonated with the current musical landscape. The hardest challenges were still to come. Despite their successes in the 1980s, the internal pressures continued to mount. Otis's role as the steady leader of the group was more vital than ever. He guided the group through constant lineup changes, internal disagreements, and personal losses, while other bands struggled to hold it together. His leadership was key in keeping the Temptations moving forward, even when things seemed to be falling apart. Looking back on the group's extraordinary journey, Otis reflects on the obstacles they faced. Personal clashes, addictions, and the ever-shifting music industry took their toll, but his commitment to their legacy never wavered. To all, Otis was driven by a singular vision: to ensure that the Temptations would be remembered for generations to come. The influence of the Temptations has left an indelible mark on the music industry, inspiring countless artists. Otis knows the price of that success. The constant pressure to perform, the never-ending changes in the music scene, and the personal losses they endured were no easy feats. Yet, despite it all, Otis's dedication to their success remained unwavering. In interviews, Otis has openly shared that while the Temptations dealt with many internal conflicts, his role was always distinct from others in the band. Unlike the lead singers who often found themselves in the spotlight, Otis's strength lay in his ability to organize, to keep the group together. His voice may not have been the one front and center in every hit song, but his presence was the backbone of their iconic sound. It was the baritone that held it all together, providing the harmonies that made the Temptations unforgettable. But that's not the whole story. Otis Williams didn't just provide stability to the Temptations. He added his own unique touch that helped define their sound. His voice brought something special to their tracks, especially through the spoken parts in songs like I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, a soulful duet with Diana Ross. It was here that Otis's deep voice complemented Eddie Kendrick's soaring falsetto, adding a layer of emotional depth to their performance. Also made his mark during the intros of timeless classics like Masterpiece, where his spoken words set the stage for the unforgettable harmonies that followed. His role in the group went beyond just being a steady presence. Otis became a voice of authority and resilience. Throughout all the lineup changes, he was the constant driving force, guiding the Temptations through the highs and lows of the ever-demanding music business. He and Melvin Franklin, another original member, made a pact early on. No matter what, they would stick together. That promise helped keep the group grounded during challenging times, giving them the stability they needed to endure. Even after Melvin's passing in 1995, Otis continued to honor that commitment, refusing to let their legacy fade. Today, at 81 years old, he stands as the last surviving member of the original lineup, still performing with the band and contributing to new music. His voice and legacy are immortalized on every album, including their latest release in January 2022, Temptations 60, which featured collaborations with their longtime partner, Smokey Robinson. The story of Otis Williams isn't just one of professional triumph. It's also a personal journey marked by both heartbreaking losses and enduring love. His rise to stardom took a heavy toll on his personal life. He married Josephine Rogers in 1961, the same year the Temptations were formed, and they had a son together, Otis Lamont Miles. But the pressures of the music world proved too much, and the couple separated in 1964. The heartbreak deepened in 1985 when his son tragically passed away in a workplace accident, a loss that Otis carried with him for the rest of his life. Otis's romantic life was as turbulent as his professional one. One memorable chapter unfolded when he crossed paths with the legendary Patti LaBelle. At the time, Patti wasn't signed to Motown, but her group, the Bluebells, was quickly gaining recognition. They formed a close bond and even became engaged. Patti recalls the heartfelt moments, like Otis giving her a beautiful ring and dreaming of a future together. But their engagement didn't last. Otis wanted Patti to give up her career and settle down in Detroit, something she couldn't do. Looking back, Patti admitted that her attraction wasn't so much to Otis, but rather the allure of being with a member of the Temptations. She chose her career over their relationship, ending the engagement and returning the ring. Yet, Otis's love life wasn't finished with that chapter. In 1967, he married Ann Kane, but by 1973, the marriage ended in divorce. Ann had worked as a housekeeper for another famous R&B couple, Ike and Tina Turner, and her experience in that world proved to be no match for Otis's demanding career. Then in 1983, he married for the third time, this time to Aretha Goldie Williams. This marriage brought him a stepdaughter, Ilan Carter, who would go on to fame as a Playboy playmate in June 1994. As time went on, Otis began asking for special treatment, an acknowledgement of his years of dedication that set him apart from his bandmates. Once unified group of young men, bound by their love of music and the shared dream of stardom, was now navigating the realities of fame, success, and personal desire. Otis, always the steady force, had helped carry the weight of the Temptations' legacy, but his journey, both with the band and in his personal life, was far from simple. One clear example of the growing tension within the Temptations came when Otis Williams made a bold decision to travel in a fancy limousine lined with mink fur, accompanied by his partner, Tammy Terrell. This decision to separate himself from the rest of the group marked a noticeable shift from their usual practice of traveling together. It was a choice that not only drew attention but also stirred discomfort among the band, signaling the beginning of changes that would shape the band's future in ways no one could anticipate. That wasn't all. Inspired by Motown's decision to spotlight Diana Ross by renaming the Supremes to Diana Ross and the Supremes, Otis suggested a similar move for the Temptations, proposing that they be renamed David Ruffin and the Temptations. This idea, however, didn't sit well with either the band or Otis himself. The group had always thrived on unity, and the thought of placing one member above the others clashed with their collaborative spirit. David Ruffin's personal struggles quickly escalated, with his increasing cocaine use and erratic behavior causing him to miss meetings, rehearsals, and performances. His unpredictable actions and demands for financial transparency added more tension to the group. The breaking point came in June 1968 when Ruffin skipped a key concert in Cleveland to pursue a romantic interest, Barbara Gail Martin. His defiant act led the Temptations to remove him from the group on June 27, 1968. Dennis Edwards replaced him the following day. Ruffin initially accepted the decision but later stormed the stage during Edwards' first performance, shocking both the band and the audience. Despite efforts to control him, Ruffin continued to disrupt shows, even sneaking into venues during their July tour. Eventually, the group decided to stick with Edwards, ending Ruffin's disruptive influence. Ruffin turned to legal battles in October 1968, suing Motown to end his contract. After a settlement, he left Motown and pursued a solo career, while the Temptations moved on. But the group's struggles weren't over. Eddie Kendricks, frustrated with the new musical direction and clashes with Otis and Melvin Franklin, suggested a strike to demand a financial review. Otis and Melvin opposed the idea, fearing it would divide the group. Tension reached a peak in November 1970, when Eddie walked out during a performance at the Copacabana, marking the end of his time with the Temptations. This internal conflict, alongside external pressures, reinforced Otis's commitment to preserving the band's legacy. Was Eddie right to push for a strike, or did his actions threaten the Temptations' future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the world of music.